Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome to the final thoughts of Umineko episode 4, and a little bit of final thoughts of the first 4 episodes in general. So, as usual, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm kind of making it up as I go along, which sounds really bad when I say it out loud, but but I'm gonna be basically whatever I can think of, and I'm also going through my last stream video to kind of give myself some pointers on things that I've forgotten a little bit. We're going to go over. So, I think the big interesting thing that I thought about this chapter was that, as a general whole, Battler wasn't the important subject, which, I know maybe I should have changed the thumbnail to have the portrait of Angie, but you know what? I liked that thumbnail. I actually liked that thumbnail a lot. So, I'm glad I stuck with it. But it is true that Angie was the main focus of this one, which is really weird considering that Battler's generally been the main focus. Like, even if he's kind of been a little bit less of the main focus, he's always still been kind of in the full focus. Whereas Battler didn't come back into full focus until near the end of this section. I've talked about it before, but one thing I think that this game does really interestingly is, just because it's so long, is that it allows you to have actual large amounts of physical time between events in the game. Because, for example, in let's say an 8-hour game, they might say, something happens a week later, but in the mind of you as the viewer, reader, whatever have you, it may be in the game 8 hours, or maybe in the game, a week later, but to you, it's only happened maybe an hour later. You remember what was happening fully well, and it's a little bit of a weird experience. And I think in that regard, this game is interesting in that it actually takes me longer, due to the way I record, it takes me physically longer to get through these sections than the characters do to go through their sections. Like, this whole game takes place in, 2 days, 3 days or something, for the most part. And yet it takes me, a few months to get through each of these episodes. So it does take a lot longer to proceed through stuff. So it allows you to feel, I think, the full emotion or at least a better idea of the emotion that these characters are feeling, because you have time to think about it. It doesn't just say 1 week later, and then you don't really have any time to process these emotions, and the characters have already had their time to process the emotions and thoughts that they're thinking about. Whereas this, you have so much more physical time. Even if you were to, play it through in all one sitting, it still does take a lot of physical time to play. To the point that I would say that you have nearly the same amount of time, or possibly even more, in my case, as the story characters do to experience the same feelings and emotions. And in that sense, it feels like Battler is, I know this character because I've seen him for so long in these previous games, but at the same time, it's kind of weird. Like, I don't feel a very sudden connection to Battler because we spent all this time talking about Angie, and we spent all this time not talking about Battler. It feels like Battler is almost like a long-lost friend. Like, you know about him, but you haven't seen him in a while, and you're not really sure what's going on with him now, and you want to figure it out. I don't know if that's the best explanation, but that's the one I'm going with. And we started off with a lot of Angie's story, and I would say, people were telling me the beginning of episode 4 is probably one of the weaker sections. Not in the sense that it was bad, but it's just so long and boring, honestly, is the best way I can explain it. But the end is some of the better stuff, and I would agree with that as well. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening once the game actually got started. But it started off with Angie a lot of Angie nowadays stuff kind of running away from the Sumidera family. And then it would go to past Angie stuff, which I would say the past Angie stuff, while important story-wise, was dreadfully boring at times. Namely, all that stuff with Maria going on, telling Angie about stuff. It was sad, don't get me wrong, but it was also boring. And we moved on later to Detective Angie starting work, which actually, I found that stuff to be really exciting. Because, it's kind of unraveling the mystery somewhat. It really is. Then we have that final scene with Angie where I think it was the other stream. Yeah, it was the other stream near the end where Angie's, finally being able to bring the stakes of purgatory back to life and kill everyone. That was pretty cool. I liked that. I mean, like I said, and like it was told to me, it definitely gets better towards the end. And then finally, we get to the part, that sad scene with Angie and Battler, where Angie sacrifices herself to give Battler another fighting chance. It's definitely pretty sad. And then, of course, we had that great battle scene at the end between Beatrice and Battler where they were talking things over. And they brought up some interesting stuff. I really wish there was, like, a spoiler-free, like, Chapter 1 through 4. I mean, I'm sure there is somewhere buried in a forum, but where someone basically recants what happened in each of the scenes according to, Beatrice or something. What we saw in the game, because that is, I think, the hardest part for me, is trying to remember exactly what happened. But I do know that for the first story, Battler says, well, hey, maybe, Kinzo was never alive because we never saw him. He was dead and there was actually only 17 people. And then, an 18th hobo or whatever have you could come in and screw up the game as he pleases. But Beatrice basically announces in red later that can't happen. So, kind of shot that one down. Then Kinzo turned into a dragon. I liked that part. That was cool. I didn't really fully understand what was going on there, but that was cool. And to tell you the truth, the first time that Battler battled Beatrice in this section, Beatrice kind of just threw the game. Like, she sounded like she was tired. Like, it's like one of those things where you're like, okay, I'm done, ready for the game to be over. Yep, come on. Oh, you hit me. Oh, darn. Why does she keep doing that? I don't know. So the first thing that Battler talks about is with the murder of the 6 relatives in the gardening shed. And he talks about, anyone could have done that because we didn't really have alibis at the time. Beatrice takes that. Then for the murder of Eva and Hideyoshi, they're saying that maybe one of the dead people wasn't actually dead and they committed the murder and then hid under the bed, which Beatrice takes once again. Then it moves on to Cannon's death, which we find out was not suicide nor murder, so Battler says it's an accident, and that isn't, refuted at the time. Oh yes, and then one of my favorite theories, where they did the simultaneous gun murder, which I'm sure totally happens all the time, where they aim their guns clockwise and murder each other. That's a good one. And then Maria collects all the guns, start cackling evilly. Yeah, that one works out pretty well. And Beatrice just takes it, and then Battler basically says the last one's a trap, where Natsui is killed by a trap gun by standing in a specified area where a trap gun kills her. Now, I think the thing that needs to be remembered the most is that around the time of the first game, Battler was completely, or when we were analyzing the first game, I should say, Battler was completely unable to take the idea that any of his family members could be murderers. And since he's, since then, long ago, thrown out that idea, it becomes a whole lot easier to explain a lot of these things, if some of his family members were doing the murdering. And Beatrice hands the first game to him. So then we go on to my favorite argument, the small bombs argument, where small bombs are mixed into their food and they kill them all. Which Beatrice seems to take the more wild conclusions as ones that Battler can make, like just like crazy wild conclusions. She likes them. She's like, yeah, that's good. We'll go with that one. Then we move on to Closed Room with Jessica and Cannon, which Battler... Okay, so this one was kind of complicated. Battler says that the culprit could have been one of the servants and they could have used a master key to get into the room. And then Battler suggests that Cannon's name was inherited by someone. That Cannon was killed, a different person succeeded the name, and that this person attacked them. Alright, I don't know if they talked much about the second game, but on to the third game now. I'm just going through my stream video of it. So there was that big thing with the 6 corpses at the beginning of the third game, which was supposed to be a big, like, multiple room, closed room thing where each person had a key for a different room, and Battler says, well, the person who discovered a corpse pretended to find the key in their pocket, which set up the idea that this was a closed room, which would have made it not a closed room, and that they were just the last person in the list of things to happen. Oh yeah, and this I think this next theory is pretty interesting. It's talking about Dr. Nanjo dying, and then later Eva proclaimed these people's death in red. However, Battler suggests that, for that period of time between them being proclaimed dead and Dr. Nanjo dying, that they themselves might not have been dead. They might have died very shortly later for unknown reasons. And with that, Battler is able to take down Beatrice, so to speak. And apparently it's been said that by this point we have all the clues needed to solve the story. I've also been told that without being a Japanese speaker or reader or whatever, it's also very difficult to solve the story. So this, I don't really have any idea as to the story, because we've already been told even later in the Tea Party by Lambda Delta that a lot of Battler's theories were wrong, and Beatrice never combated them as being wrong, but they were wrong. So it kind of tears up a lot of Battler's theories. So he may have won, but he didn't really get the truth, so to speak. And I think that's about all I've got. I guess I'll talk a little bit about streaming. I did start the streaming thing relatively recently, and that does help expedite the process of some of these longer sections. So I'm glad everyone's enjoying it. It's a weird experience for me, but I'm enjoying it too. And I think certain sections of the game really do benefit from a stream. So it's something that I think I'm looking forward to doing more of. And to tell you guys the truth, I don't really know. I don't really have much of any ideas about what the actual story behind Umineko is as of yet. I'm assuming as we go down, it's going to be revealed to us. So I may have to wait until that, because I see all Battler's saying, but then Lambda Delta denies a lot of it. So I don't really have any idea what the truth behind it all is. I can make theories just like Battler, but until I get them denied or anything, I don't really have any method of telling that. Oh yeah, there was that one scene where, we were told Sakataro was a special individual made by Rosa. However, you see later, and I don't know if it was, I think I was told it wasn't in the original artwork, it was only in this updated artwork, that you see a bag full of Sakataros in the boat captain's house, which is crazy, that at that point you realize that at the very truest sense, that Sakataro wasn't the only, hand-knit individual toy for Maria. Maybe you could kind of twist the words a little bit and say, well, it was a special one for Maria, but then Rosa decided to make a bunch of them. Maybe they were still handmade, but they were mass-produced handmade, and maybe Rosa's mom did it, but at the same time, that still takes away from the general idea that it is a special one Rosa made just for her daughter, no one else, kind of thing. So it does take away from that a little bit, and it does look like they were probably mass-produced at some point, which is a little heartbreaking. So, but I guess that would mean that bringing back Sakataro would be a thing that could be done, considering that it's not the only one, I would think. I'm interested in trying that Umineko fighting game, though I'm going to wait until after Chapter 5, just because it was generally agreed on that at that point I wouldn't really have to worry too much about spoilers in the game. So we're going to wait until then, and then I'll give the game a try. And I've heard someone told me there was online gameplay, so maybe we would try some online stuff. That might be fun. And being the last thing that I'm really going to say before we close, it's been a lot of fun. It really has. We're halfway through the game, so there's still basically all of this again. It's been so nice, really. It has. It's such a great story, and the community surrounding it, at least everyone that I've seen of it so far, seems to be really great. So thank you guys so much for watching. Really, I do appreciate it when I say it. I really do. It means a lot, and it's really cool. Just to, I'm looking at the stream right now, 314 views. Wow, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people watching me babble on and make dumb jokes about Canon having a chair head. and just stuff like that. It's great. I really like it. I really can't think of too much else. Just I'll have to play more of the coming game to see what the thing is. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about was Battler's Sin. Somebody said it's already been stated what Battler's Sin was, which I cannot remember. I want to say that Battler's Sin was leaving the family and then attempting to come back, but I'm not really sure. Maybe that's it, maybe it's not. I don't know. That seems like that's the most likely thing in my opinion, but maybe it was told differently later. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I really do. Thanks for listening. Oh, special thank you. Who said this? I don't know how to say your name. DQAUPOP. Thank you for giving me a list of song names, because it's really, really hard to find a lot of these Umineko songs. You know, I can look into the game files and find the songs, but half of them are kanji, you know, Japanese stuff, and I can't read kanji. I tried to learn it at one point, but I got overwhelmed with real life stuff and had to stop. So unfortunately, I do not know how to read kanji. So it really does help having English translated names for these songs, so I can look them up, because it's probably been playing by now. You can see I've definitely used them, so thank you. I was also asked to make an anime reactions video of the scenes of the anime. I don't think I'm gonna do that. I may just mention it in one of the videos. I'm planning on watching up to where we're at, and I've been told that it's generally not good, but some of the early stuff wasn't bad, if that makes sense. It's like treading the exact same bad line. I don't know. But anyway, we are going to be starting Umineko, I think Ch.4, that's what it's called, soon. AKA Chapter 5, or Episode 5, what have you. I hate that they call them episodes, I really do, because I always call my things episodes, so it kind of messes me up. But that's where we're going to stop for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, I really do. If you have anything else you want me to answer or talk about in the comments, go ahead. Just keep in mind I am kind of busy recently, so it is difficult for me to do any really detailed, in-depth analysis at this time, and also I'm just not very good at in-depth analysis kind of stuff. I've never been very good at that kind of stuff, so I do as much as I can. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, I really appreciate it. And we will continue going through the game, learning all sorts of fun stuff, and maybe seeing more Yuri witch scenes. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time for some more Umineko. Bye!